Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Business of YouTube. Today we're going to talk about the Olympics with a special guest, Luca Fasani, Senior Digital Manager of World Aquatics. Welcome on board, Luca.
Hello, hi Paula. Nice to see you.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Nice to see you. I'm doing very well. How about you?
Good. Just came back from Budapest for our last event of the season, swimming event.
Closing the year.
Yeah, closing the year just because we had a so busy year and we wanted to have another one in December, but it was great.
Great, and thank you for being here today. Like after an event, I know it's not that easy.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
All right, let's go straight in then. Like you had a very busy year. It's the Olympic year and you're at World of Aquatics, where usually you're don't get bored in general, but this year even more than usual. So what happened in the Olympic year for you, and anything that you can share?
Absolutely. As I said, it's been a very busy year. Actually, it's been the first time in history where we had World Championships, because we started in Doha in February because of course postponements from COVID 3 years ago. So we had 4 championships, then of course the Olympic Games this summer, and then we ended up with the short course swimming championships alongside another full season of World Cup events for our of each 6 sports, because people may not know, but actually we are not only the governing body of swimming, but with that there is diving, high diving, open water swimming, water polo, and artistic swimming. So it's just pretty everything with water almost.
You're fairly busy. Exactly.
Yeah.
Fairly busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Olympics, I mean, I feel very, very lucky and blessed to have witnessed these Olympics. I mean, I was on site, of course, with the team and with World Aquatics, and it's been great. Great experience. 3 full weeks, of course, very intense, but the atmosphere and the whole event, the whole organization has been really incredible. So this, from a personal perspective, has been great. And of course, most importantly, we had a very positive feedback from and results after the Olympics. So of course, seeing that the work we put on this event eventually turned out great is of course even better.
Let's start from numbers. You know, I'm a data geek, so I like to start from number and then know the story behind the numbers. Can you share anything from the Olympics?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me also make this premise, because at the Olympics, as you know, there is always a problem, if you want to say, for the international sport federations to use competition footage, right? So everything belongs to IOC. I mean, the right holder broadcasters pay quite a lot of money for this
amount of money. Fair enough.
Yeah. So of course we want to be compliant with all the regulations, and so the big topic every time when we approach the Olympics is, okay, video is a key element for our digital content strategy. How we can make it successful when you don't have any content that you can film, neither from the competition, nor from the pool, nor from the behind the scenes. Everything that is inside the venue is just forbidden when it comes to video recording. And this
so
year,
what the rule is you can't use nothing, basically.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Just to clarify to anybody that is not familiar with the Olympics, it's basically you can't use absolutely anything. So you need to be either creative or not
or
using
static with images.
content.
Yeah. But so what we tried to do was really to be prepared and do our homework before in advance, and we collected a lot of videos and content from the months before the Olympic Games. So either from our competitions, there were test events that were held in Paris, of course. A lot of interviews with the athletes, and all these kind of content pots became eventually very useful during the Olympic Games, because you can really see that like during the Olympics you have this trend and people are just like all in with the Olympics, right? So it's crazy. Like you go on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and there is content, Olympic content everywhere. And somehow, like you don't even do distinction if that is fresh content or is from one month before. You just want to watch it because like there are news stories. You want to know the athletes. You want to know more about the sports. And so we were prepared in June and July to really push out a lot of content, and that turned out great.
Strategically repurposing, creating for repurposing, like concept. Like it's interesting. Repurposing always works, like with content, so smart.
Yeah. And this actually, I mean, in terms, because you were asking about numbers, yes, we got around 610 million video views total aggregate across our platforms, which, I mean, probably is such a big number that I had some issue to to pronounce it. But when it comes, when it comes to what does it mean, we score 1 million views per hour for the entire period of the game. So 20 days, 1 million views every hour, which is a big number for us. Of course, a federation that historically wasn't, let's say, very strong on digital and social media back in the days from the previous Olympic cycle. So, of course, this is not just a result of 20 days of work, but see that number for me and the team it really means a lot. We were first in total engagement across all the sport federations. So of course this is another big achievement. And all this also not only in terms of video views and engagement, but we actually reached out many new fans. There were 1.2 million new fans, followers that joined the World Aquatics handles or on YouTube channel as well. Of course, that is a big number compared to our total fan base. So it was more around 20% increase overall. So of course, is another big number for us.
No, that's definitely very interesting because, especially from experience, what I see is that the Olympics is the perfect tentpoling event where you really grow the reach. So it's like there are like there's the super core fans that really are gonna love it, but the Olympics is really about just discovering sports. Like whoever is not a fan, everybody loves the Olympics. Period. Like everybody watches sports that would never, like, for some reason he's not exposed, or you're not exposed every single day because of airtime or because of many different reasons. But we all love any kind of sports, and we find each other like just like watching whatever. But then the point is really, if you can funnel during the tentpole events the new reach, and then keep part of them, like, because of course you're not going to keep all the numbers during the 4 years, but if you can just keep a portion of it, like in between, then you change the level already. And that's the leveraging the tentpoling and master it, because then you're a different size already, like the minute it ends.
Absolutely. And these 610 million views for us were, of course, a big number, but for me was even better to see the breakdown of those numbers, because it's true that part of it came from the videos and competition footage from our previous events, which was one part, though. Another part came actually from all the new production that we put in place during the Olympics. For example, was the first time for us for a daily show that we were filming right after the end of the swimming finals at night in a studio just close by the venue, because again we couldn't film anything inside the venue. The show was called About Last Night, posted the morning after on YouTube. This was original content for us, complete new production with 2 hosts and some of the former Olympic champions that were there with us during the entire period. And this turned out great. We're out of 12 episodes, more than 2 million views. I mean, for a fresh new format as this one that World Aquatics never did in the past, was an absolute great experiment. And actually we did now the second season, let's say, just last week for the other swimming event in Budapest, and with still very good results. So I feel that, you know, it is very relevant for the community to find good content, and when you manage to find the key for them to spot that good content, then they will follow you, and then they will come back later on. So probably for closing this year, now see that this was not only a good format for the Olympics, where of course, as you said, everyone is all in with the Olympics. But then, like, if you come back 4 or 5 months later with a good viewership, that means that people appreciate what you've done last summer, and then they want to see more, and they come back, which is of course what we want to do, because, you know, Olympics are every 4 years, but then we have events every year, every month, and we have to keep, if not the same, but still we have to keep good indicators across the entire cycle. So that's why seeing these people coming back and appreciating the formats we're doing and watching more is great.
Well, and basically what you're doing is owning the narrative as well. So it's not passively like participating, definitely not passively, but it's like you create the narrative, that then it's an IP that you're creating, and that has value. And then you can decide how to interact with those fans, and read the data as well on how they interact with you. So it's I think that's very smart, because then you just build up on the base of having no content anyway. So like you just build up from scratch, very creatively. But that's that's the beauty as well of digital content. You have to be creative, like no matter what, either because you don't have resources or you don't have any rights, or like, but you can actually interact globally. And that's another point I think in your case is really important, because you are a global federation and you can get fans from any corner of the world, and you can do it in the most authentic way, indirectly. So that adds value to the sport and adds value to the overall rights anyway, which is brilliant.
Yeah, no, you're right, Paula. And I would say what is important for us is to actively interacting to create that storytelling, right? And doing, like, in every single platform in a way, in a tailored way, right? Like, and this plan needs to be built way earlier than the Olympic Games are underway, and so
yes. Yes, it's not a last minute thing.
Absolutely. And we really have a clear path in mind of what we can push out on Instagram, what we could push out on Facebook, on X, on TikTok, on YouTube. For us, as I think for many other sport federation, YouTube is always kind of like a bit like a mystery box, because you have a bit less of understanding of what, in which way, let's say, partners can enter the storytelling, in which way the athletes can participate, because it's, you know, like you have maybe a bit less tools to, I don't know, do call-ups posts or do tagging and these kind of things. And so we were very clear with our strategies. Okay, what we are going to put on YouTube is something different, of course, then to be pushed out across other channels, but we wanted really to create something that was tailor-made for YouTube during the Olympics, and I think that then paid out as a good strategy, without trying just to copy and paste something from other platforms. Understanding also that how the world of social is evolving, I think that more and more YouTube is getting a bit like on a different direction, while like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, they are still, I would say, a very core block in terms of social handles. And so you can somehow take maybe a piece of content and push it out across three channels in a more or less the same way. But when it comes to YouTube, you have to just be different. Of course, this takes resources, so time and budgets and people, and you have to be really to build kind of project that is vertical for the platform. So of course, is the effort is and the work to prepare this is bigger. But I feel that this is the only way to really tackle that platform differently.
Well, you need to be intentional, that's for sure. It doesn't happen by chance, and that's not easy either. But I think that's like one thing that you highlighted before as well. Like you were creating the archive in advance, and also that people were watching old competitions during the Olympics. It's like that's the power, I think, of YouTube, is actually the archive that you built over time. So it's not just the content is like picking on what's happening now, but the reality is that the archive that you're building over time is actually paying off in many different ways. One is that people are watching even content that was brilliant content from 4 years ago, and why not? I mean, if it's brilliant, it's
Absolutely.
brilliant, so it doesn't really matter. And then there is also content that you can repurpose because it's brilliant, and so why not actually create new formats based on that content? So the more the merrier there, and then becomes like a very interesting kind of play, leveraging the whole archive, and you have thousands and thousands of pieces of content. So definitely archive is a golden pot. I like to always highlight that, because usually, especially in sports, everybody's thinking about the event that is happening tomorrow, which, I mean, it's fair enough. But for what is important in terms of YouTube and viewership and growing that fan base, everything that you did until yesterday, it's actually something that has value. It's not because it's past, then there's no value. Actually, there is a lot of value because you can leverage that more and more in the future, and that's going to help out growing the audience for the next event. So they all work together in a way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like there is always kind of a paradigm where, like, for example, in football, you have so many games, and every 3 days you can have fresh content, which we don't have. And this is as always, like, as a weakness for us, because, like, okay, now guys, what we do next? Now we have maybe to wait 1 month. But it's true also that the emotions coming out from the Olympic Games or from a World Championship, because of course it's an event that takes place every 2 years or 4 years, that emotional part can actually extend the cycle of the content more than a football game, for example, which every, I say, 3 days, and the previous football game, apart for iconic games like, I don't know, Champions League final or World Cup final, but is very easily overtaken by like the next. So for a football team, for example, that seek of the next content fit very well, because you have always to look, okay, in 3 days we are playing next game, next team, and that's great. For us, it's a slightly different story, because we really have to make sure we can take that content and extend it, and the emotions that you can get out from an edition of the Olympic Games are just insane. I think like for the Olympic Games, from a media perspective and digital perspective, there have been always kind of clusters, and after, I think London 2012 was really the first Olympic Games in the era of social media, because of course Beijing 2008 for the region and also for the platforms that were existing by then, it was not still the like the social media edition, and it started really.
It was different, yes.
And so London was like really the new kind of, it set the new boundary for everything that you can do on a digital space. Then like Rio and Tokyo, for different reasons, were different type of Olympics, and I feel that Paris was really now is the kind of new boundary for and setting it up like a higher level. So let's see what will happen in 2028, but like where the athletes finally became, for the first time, the creators themselves of content at the Olympic Games. Why? Because they got the chance to do so, because they were the only one allowed to film behind the scenes, but also because they now have a much better awareness about what does it mean being on social media, especially if you have a great story to tell, right? So the support and the content that the athletes were pushing out helped a lot, even in World Aquatics and the other federation, for building up this successful story.
Yeah, at least I think it's gonna be more and more. And now, like, a few cases came out in terms of like starting being athletes creators and understanding. I don't think that it was as clear before, but the value they create for themselves and for the sport and everything is just it's just gonna be shown like in a few years time. In a year time, it's gonna be already different. Next Olympics, I mean, it's the Hollywood Olympics, so it's gonna be content at its best. So I think the next Olympics is gonna be like everything about content in one way or another, and of course, sports is the core. But it's gonna be just blossoming. I'm actually very curious to see what in this process is gonna build up, because that's gonna be like very creative from any corner of the world, to be honest. And just one more question about like you mentioned YouTube, other platforms as well. Like you have an OTT as well, and there is one thing that I'd like to hear more from you, because I find fairly enjoyable that the world is kind of divided. There is OTT or there is YouTube. Is one against the other. I totally don't think so, but that's my personal opinion. Is like you need to have a full strategy, and whatever is your purpose, then you need to either choose or actually put everything like to get the biggest ever result. And it could be absolutely together. It could be like whatever decision as far as it's strategic. So you don't have to be one or the other. And in your case, you have both. How do you see the having both, and what is the role of OTT, YouTube, and other social platforms?
Yeah, so I will start by telling you what we do for splitting content between the two. And then I will add maybe a more personal view on this, which is, of course, aligned with what we're doing here, but probably more interesting for the wider market. So for Water Aquatics, basically the idea back in the days where we had another OTT in 2017, and back then all the content, no matter from World Championships or from the junior events, age groups events, which of course don't have the same level of production, same interest, same awareness. Everything was included in the same OTT, and then the model was not probably the best in terms of having such a different range of events within the same platform treated the same way. So right after Tokyo Olympics, what we started to do was, okay, let's split between everything that can be already relevant at the global stage, World Championships, and that could be the perfect product for an OTT. And then when it comes to, say, smaller events, age group events, junior events, we want reach. In the end of the day, World Aquatics is the governing body of aquatic sports. Our number one mission in this for these sports is to help athletes, help new athletes, kids learn to swim, get in touch with our sports, and of course promoting those sports. Honestly, we don't see any value to sell 3 more subscriptions for a water polo game when like we are watching an age group event, because just this doesn't change our our budget at the end of the year.
Yeah,
but we know that if we make it free to air, maybe instead of 3,000 people, there will be 10,000 people watching the event, and that's great, because that means for us the value that you can get out from that number is much higher than the revenue that you can get from that game. Of course, different stories when we come to the World Championships, where then in that case, for the level of production, for the awareness of the event, it makes sense to provide that solution in terms of OTT. And so now, like, this is what we have been doing for the last 3 years, I think with good results, because really we could combine a presence on an OTT and then a good and growing presence on YouTube in terms of live events. And I think that is how we are going to continue for the next year at least. Considering also that for big events as the Olympics with IOC, but for us for the World Championships, you have a lot of right holder broadcasters, right? So a lot of those rights are already retained by the broadcaster, which is great, of course, because then of course that experience at the national level is much more tailored for the viewer, for the spectator. And so what we do with the OTT is basically to provide a backup solution for all the countries that may not have a broadcasters, or maybe they don't take all the event. And we say, hey guys, by the way, here there is a solution for you, and you can just log in. We have some paywall, and then they can enjoy the event, which is a sort of like plan B if your national right holder does not have a coverage in that particular day or session. And so this is what we're doing at Aquatics. Personally, I feel like there is a kind of now competition of like opening as many OTT platforms as possible. Still, we are talking about a day of 24 hours, right? And no matter if or maybe, younger generations, they are using even more, spending more time on their phone or YouTube or on the laptop, fine. But still, we are talking about a time that is quite fixed in the day. And so as a user, as a passion of sport, I can't imagine to have like 25 subscriptions to different OTTs. So at some point, even you go for an aggregator, or you have to pick the 4 or 5 that you think are the more relevant to you, right? And that's why just opening an OTT for just the purpose of saying, okay, here we go, we have one, I don't think is going to work out, especially in the next cycle, in the next few years.
Yeah, you need to be intentional, very intentional there as well. Like I think that when you choose what media to create and where to distribute, like everything, especially from a right holder perspective, you need to be super strategic. And now it's time where you have a lot of data. So whenever you decide, it's like either to grow the reach, or like to grow the revenue, or like to build a product that doesn't exist on the market, then it could be anything really, but super intentional. That's what I think that sometimes is more of a trial and error. I mean, in digital, trial and error is a thing, so it's important. As far as then it becomes data, and then it becomes decision making. I think that's where really, when you look at the profit and loss, then it makes sense in the next 5 years at least. It's an investment into the future of the value that you're building, basically.
Absolutely. And sorry, no, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to end it up on the say challenge between picking OTT or YouTube or Twitch or other platforms that have that more free to air. Still, I think the once again, the importance of making that content available for viewers, and when we think about viewers, this can be for a junior event, even parents, family, and friends of the athletes. But once again, we're talking about like 1,000 athletes on an event, that number, if from each athlete you have, I don't know, 5 in between mom, dad, grandparents, and friends, that in the end of the day, it could be a great number though. I mean, like we are talking about thousands of viewers just by the family and friends of the athletes. So you don't want these people to pay for watching their kids swimming. I mean, like we have to understand that as well. Of course, you understand that when you are on a global stage, then it becomes relevant. Yeah. But once again, I think sometimes we forget that IF, international federations, they also have to keep their kind of role of promoters of the sports, and that sometimes this can also be more important than just making revenues is always nice, but still we are the governing body of our sports.
Well, that's the revenue of the future anyway. So it's not that you need to have today's revenue, because it might not be as meaningful, but then you're building up on that, and that's going to be for tomorrow. So it's really on building on the sport and the audience. Absolutely. Yeah. Now before we end, like, what are you most proud of? I think this might be a bit more personal, but I think it's very nice to hear always, like after a very busy year and actually a cycle in the federation, like what is that you're super proud of?
I mean, I'm very pleased and happy with the numbers we got this year. there was a clear intention from and mission from my management to me, like to make this edition of the games and this year in particular very successful for World Aquatics. And so it was kind of like, okay, mission completed, which is great. Of course, it makes myself, the team, and I think everyone at World Aquatics very, very happy and pleased with this result. I think personally also because I've been working for World Aquatics, previously FINA, for now about 6 years. And what made me very happy is also how, thanks to this effort we're putting on social and what we're doing on the digital space, help us a lot to build relationships with our athletes, which was not the case in the past. And I think that is great, because like, once again, the athletes are the protagonists, are the main assets of our sports. And so build that relationship and that connection with the athletes, where now they come to you and say, okay, guys, can we do something together? Like, even last week, we met athletes that now are interested to, like, being some of our activities on our video production on social, in the live show. And this would have been impossible to get like 4 years ago. And so that process, which is, again, you just make it thanks to the effort that you put through this production and this, creating new things, testing new things. And so see that athlete that comes to you and say, okay, guys, I want to be in that video. That is very rewarding, because it means like that, once again, the main protagonists are on the same boat, and they want to help us even to promote further the sports, which is a great story.
Well, if you want to build something that goes far, then build it together. Like, clearly that's something that is happening. It's a process. It's nothing that comes very easy or very short term, but when that happens, then you're building something for the long run, which is very interesting. I'm very pleased of the conversation. I really appreciate it. I know you're super busy, and I'm very tired after this year, but I thought that it was a very good story to tell to whoever is in the business of Olympics. But anyway, whoever loves the sport, to be honest. And I think that you did an amazing job. So congratulations, and thank you for spending the time with us today.
Thank you, Paula, and it's been a pleasure to be here, and see you next time, hopefully.
See you, and let's see what happens in the next Olympics. I'm very curious.
Yeah, it's a long ride. Of course, thinking now in about 4 years' time is like,
again, it's like, oops.
So what we do actually is mainly focusing, at least at the moment, on next year, because we will still have World Championships, and after that we will be basically back to the normal calendar. So we will back to standards, and it will be in Singapore next summer. So it's going to be like an interesting one, because of course we have now, when you set new boundaries, then you have to reconfirm yourself.
Fantastic. So, all right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Luca. Thank you. Bye-bye.